Joanne.
Hello.
ECAT, are we live? Is there someone? Thank you.
All right. Are everybody ready? Stephanie, Suzanne?
Yep.
All right, board members, everybody ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let us officially start the January 6th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board. It is 6:32. This is going to be a hybrid meeting. With that, I'm going to read in some rules and procedures for remote participation. This meeting will be conducted in person and remotely over Zoom. Attendance by the planning board members may be in person or remote, and both types of attendance shall count towards quorum. This meeting may be broadcast and recorded live on ECAT. To use Zoom, you'll need to use the link in the agenda or download the Zoom application and create an account or use one of the call-in numbers listed in the agenda. You'll need a webinar ID to join by phone only. When conducting hybrid meetings, we will endeavor to keep meeting operations as close to standard procedures as possible. However, the use of remote platforms will necessitate some additional meeting protocols. While board members and commissioners and applicants will be on video and audio, public participants will be invited to speak by the chair will be in person on video and or audio. Public participants joining by Zoom will be muted and with no video feed from them. Public lines will be muted throughout the meeting to allow the board to conduct business and eliminate background noise. For general meetings and not hearings and only for the items under which the chair solicits public comment, members of the public participating in the Zoom meeting may submit a written question via text chat, provided they include their full name and address for the public record. Members of the public viewing the meeting on ECAT may submit questions in writing via email at the dped@easton.ma.us. The chair reserves the right to respond to questions during the live meeting, but may limit the time for such activities. Any questions not addressed at the meeting may be answered afterwards via email and be incorporated into the minutes of the meeting for public record. All votes will be by roll call. For public hearing during the public testimony portion of the meeting, members of the public joining via Zoom may be recognized by using the raise hand function found under participants from Zoom or make a request with the Q&A function. If you're joining only by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. When starting testimony, please state your name and address for the record. The chair reserves the right to designate a specific point of the hearing at which testimony may be offered, the duration of the comment period afforded to each individual and/or entity, and the number of individuals and entities permitted to speak. As in any public hearing, the testimony offered must be related to the hearing at hand, and off-topic comment and/or indecent behavior will not be tolerated. The chair reserves the right to end the testimony of anyone who abuses the use of the meeting platform and to remove them from the hearing. And with that, we'll do a roll call. Zygmunt?
Here.
Kedem?
Here.
Kit?
Here.
And Wolf is here as well. So the first item on our agenda is a continued public hearing.
No.
Do I have?
Madam Chair, are you using your microphone?
Am I? Yes.
Okay.
Is it not working again?
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
I can hear Mickey good.
Okay.
Okay. I was going to say not again.
I can hear too.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anybody, is someone able to read in the continuation?
Sure. I give you the honor. Thanks. The letter?
Make a motion.
Sure. I will make a motion to continue the public hearing to January 21st for 154 Elm Street, Thayer Estates.
Kedem, second.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, board members? Kit?
Aye.
Kedem?
Aye.
Zygmunt?
Aye.
And Wolf is an aye as well. For the next 531 Founder Street, we also have a request for a continuance. Do I have a motion?
Motion to continue 531 Foundry Street to January 21st. Kedem.
Second, Kid?
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Kit?
Aye.
Kedem?
Aye.
Zygmunt?
Aye.
And Wolf is an aye as well. All right, moving on to continued site plan review, 690 Depot Street. If someone, all right. You can please state your name.
Yep.
Good.
So for the record, my name is Sam Alfronti, registered engineer in the Commonwealth. I'm with Solely Engineering, offices at Levin Vanderbilt in Norwood, Mass.
Welcome. Do you have a presentation for us?
I do. Oh, there it is.
All right, please proceed.
Would it make sense, and I don't know if this is feasible, but would it make sense to discuss the A&R first, if that could be taken out of order? I know it's the next thing on the agenda, but, or no,
I don't think it's
it doesn't matter.
particularly necessary
Okay, that's fine.
from a
We can,
procedural standpoint.
We can kind of go through that after. But I was before you guys, the planning board, I think in November prior to Thanksgiving. We continued in December because we had just received stormwater comments from Strong Point. So we've since then had 2 comment letters go back and forth. The most recent one was today to acknowledge some of the conditions Mr. Diaz had for the project, as well as 1 outstanding comment he did have a question about. In addition, the site plan largely looks very similar to what we came before you originally with the original application. In the November hearing, it was discussed additional landscaping in the islands, the newly proposed islands in the Shaw's Plaza, as well as additional striping and stop signs at each kind of end aisle to kind of help facilitate safer vehicular movements, if you might remember. And besides that, the stormwater comments that we did receive, they were largely technical based. It was kind of largely pertaining to the calculations and the techniques used for calculations. So the changes in the 30 plus or minus comments didn't really change. It didn't change the site. It tweaked the stormwater basin slightly. It's a little bit larger. The outlet control structure is a little bit different. And then there were some notes and detail related comments that we revised the plans to satisfy Mr. Diaz's comments. This is the same site elements that I did share back in November. It's same 8Q, CMU dumpster enclosure, 23 parking spaces, 500 plus or minus square foot outdoor patio. There was a pylon sign proposed on the new proposed parcel. And then the snow storage areas were also added to the plans per Mr. Diaz's recommendation. We did submit a figure originally, but he wanted them shown on the site plan, so it's clear. And this was part of our operation. This was included as part of our operation and maintenance plan, which he did recommend. Any decision is conditioned that upon CO, the owner will sign that and submit it back to the planning department. But I'd be happy to answer any questions or go through it further. Like I said, there were relatively minor changes. The holidays kind of delayed the back and forth a little bit. Everyone was kind of out of the office for a while. But yeah, the plan is largely the same as what we've submitted previously, with the addition of the landscaping and the pavement markings and stop bar and such.
All right, thank you. Stephanie?
So the final review on the stormwater, I think, is primarily what we were waiting for, at least from the department standpoint. And Mr. Diaz did finish his review today, and he made some recommendations for conditions. He felt that the system did comply. A couple of the conditions, one was that there be a physical barrier separating the parking lot from the stormwater basin so that snow is not pushed into the basin during plowing operations, which makes a lot of sense. There is a recommendation that prior to construction and as they're excavating for the, I think it's the basin area,
Soil value.
they do an additional soil evaluation, and that be observed in the results provided back. That's easy enough to accommodate. I believe the stormwater maintenance and operations plan needs to be submitted. Was that
It
one
needs
of the?
to be signed by the owner upon CO.
Yeah.
Or prior to CO, I guess.
Yep.
And then there was one additional condition. He did recommend an additional silt fence during construction, between
correct.
the parking area and the basin to
Yep.
prevent any sediment.
So those can all be easily incorporated into a decision by the board and then followed up on during the construction process.
Thank you, Stephanie. Board members, any comments or questions?
We are going to retain the septic system that is, the old septic system is going to stay in place. It's not going to be removed.
Correct, yeah, and I went through that back in November, but I certainly can discuss it. I don't know what plan would be the best. Maybe this is the utility plan. So the existing septic system or leaching field that's kind of along Depot Street, it's a little bit mounded if you drive by. It's actually for the Burger King restaurant, which is kind of unique. It's covered under an easement agreement. And originally when we had a pre-application meeting well over a year ago, and the original intent was to take the leaching system, decommission the leaching system, tie the Burger King into the Foundry Street sewer main, and then tie the Chipotle into the Depot Street sewer main. The system isn't failing, and Burger King, through they do have the right to maintain that, and they kind of rescinded kind of the approved agreement or preliminary agreement that they had with the owner. So they prefer to maintain the leaching system that exists, and the town doesn't have any triggers to force them to connect until the system is failing. So as long as it's a compliant Title V system, they're allowed to maintain that, and we are proposing to maintain that as part of the design. So that's the reasoning why it's 70 feet off the front property line as opposed to, I think the original design had it about 25 or 30 feet.
Who owns the property itself?
So the property itself currently is owned by, I think it's Shaw Plaza Station LLC, which is a subsidiary of the applicant, Phillips Edison Company. But the Burger King is owned by a separate entity.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have another question. Who is going to be responsible for the signs?
Excuse me. Sorry, Amos, you're very fuzzy with your microphone. I don't know if it's your shirt or.
I don't know.
I think
Is it possible?
Right.
Yeah.
It's right against your skin.
It's probably actually picking up your voice box and not your voice.
Here you go. The signs on the roads for safety, who is responsible for that?
The stop signs?
Yes, because we are redesigning all the flow.
Correct.
There,
Correct.
and it's significant. And the studies and the signs, who is responsible for that? The town or?
No, this is all privately owned. So
All private.
it's through an operation and maintenance plan.
And where do we have the details for all the signs and the traffic study for that intersection? As part of the plan? Part of the drawings?
Does that seem to be the broken one? We should probably
Yeah, that's a broken
move it off somewhere and get rid of it.
So as part of the submission, there was a traffic analysis submitted. We analyzed 3 intersections, or really 4. We analyzed the Shaw's Plaza driveway in Foundry Street, Route 106, the Foundry Street, Depot Street, and Bay Road was actually included in that intersection because it kind of functions as one intersection, even though it's offset a little bit. And then also the Shaw's Plaza driveway and Depot Street driveway. So this was all analyzed and the conclusion of the report is there's a slight decrease in level of service for, I believe, the intersection traveling westbound on Depot Street, but it's a negligible decrease in timing. I think it was 0.6 seconds. So there was a decrease, but it was very minor in the grand scheme of a development. The new trips that are proposed for this are relatively small. When you analyze traffic analysis, you use a pass-by rating as well. So there's a lot of trips that exist in the network that will be visiting this development. So it's not necessarily new trips added to the network. Does that answer your question?
I was more concerned about specific signs and safety in front of the establishment on the entry to Shaw's from that.
Maybe
on
you
the-
could go back
on
to
the
the
north
landscape
part.
plan.
Okay.
And,
The color.
and yes, the traffic coming from the supermarket out and into the supermarket, and the people using this bypass to go to 106, that can be
Sure. So we are
critical. So it needs to be, science needs to be good. And
Sure.
it needs to be planned in a way in which safety is considered.
Right. I think it was discussed at the last planning board meeting that I attended in November. So currently, it's kind of a swath of pavement, and that I think we kind of all semi-agreed that kind of facilitates the unsafe movements because it's not restricted. You have a large entrance, and it was originally designed for truck turning movements, but I think it's resulted in a lot of people cutting through, not stopping, driving fast. So this kind of restricts that main corridor and drive through the Shaws to, I believe, 30 feet wide. So it's a much more restricted and narrower path. We are proposing pavement markings for the Chipotle, so anyone visiting the Chipotle will know to take a left or a right. There is also a stop bar and a center line at the end of this main drive aisle. So there's a stop sign there. So that would restrict people from kind of blowing through and creating some of the havoc that I think you guys mentioned at the last meeting. And I think this was raised when we were in front of the zoning board. They raised similar concerns, and that was the reasoning for the additional stop signs at each drive aisle.
Yeah, all the aisles have a stop sign.
Correct. Yeah. So at this point,
They don't have not currently all of them, but
correct. Yeah, there's a couple that I think in the
Yes,
past couple years
right.
have been knocked down with either snow plowing or
Yes.
various things. Yeah. So those will all be replaced as part of this project.
Any further questions from the board? All right. The options here is to approve with the conditions as laid out in the stormwater review. Do I have a motion, or could I entertain?
motion to approve the presentation with the conditions specified. Kevin.
Second, Kid.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none. Zygmunt?
Yes.
Kedem?
Aye.
Kidd?
Aye.
And Wolf is an aye as well. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to the NR plan?
Yes.
All right.
So when we originally submitted, so again, Sam Alfronti with Solar Engineering. When we originally submitted, we were in the preliminary stages of getting this reviewed by our applicant's legal team. There's a lot of easements associated with this just because there's interconnectivity. Through the advisement of the surveyor as well as the attorneys, they suggested we submit the A&R, and then once this is recorded, the revised easements will be drafted, and we can certainly provide them to the town as part of the access. But obviously, it's conducive for both parcels to have that in place before construction. But it is currently owned by, like I said, the same owner. Both lots are compliant with frontage and area. And yeah, it's a 0.882 acre parcel along Depot Street, and the remaining land is 18.947 acres.
Right, Stephanie?
The lot conforms with the zoning in the district,
All right.
both from a frontage area standpoint.
Board members? Comments or questions?
Yeah, just a quick question. So who manages the stormwater basin? That's not on Chipotle's parcel, but that Chipotle is using?
Correct. So that will be covered under the easement agreement that's being drafted. It
Okay.
will be, like I said, it's common ownership. They don't have any interest to sell this at the moment, but in the event it'd be under both parties' interest to have that covered under an easement and the operation and maintenance covered there as well.
I'm sorry, could you, when you say they don't have any interest in selling this,
Correct.
who is they and what is this?
The applicant and this is in the potential development.
So, again, just to be clear, because the way you said it was a little confusing.
sorry.
So Phillips Edison owns the remainder parcel. They'll continue to own that. That's where the Shaw's Plaza is. This is being carved off, and this will be owned by the Chipotle,
No, Phillips Edison.
by Phillips Edison also?
Yeah,
They
and
will
so-
retain, so that's what I thought you were saying.
Yes.
Phillips Edison will retain ownership, but it will be a separate lot.
It's a ground, yep. The
So
separate
it's a
lot will be
ground
agreed
lease,
to
yeah.
Chipotle.
Okay,
Sorry if that was confusing.
So it's carved out
Okay.
of the overall ownership of the plaza.
Correct, but it will be common ownership of both parcels.
Yes.
Yep.
But from the parcel itself, it's carved out with the same ownership.
Correct.
Okay.
And then to answer your original question, it's going to be covered under an easement for operation maintenance. It'll be similar to how the basin for the Shaws is maintained. It'll be through their project management team.
Okay.
Yeah, the problem is possible conflicts on the future if ownership changes based on the fact that this piece was carved out.
Correct, and that's why the easements being in place prior to construction is integral for them and anyone that would have interest of potentially buying either parcel.
I would also say just having them recorded by the town, so the town has documentation of just
that can be an
yeah.
additional condition.
Yep,
Yeah,
I would
good
recommend
point.
that.
Yeah.
Just so you can track it.
That's fine.
Yeah. Anything further?
You'll
Okay.
need to amend the motion to add that condition.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have, board members, any further discussion, questions? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve A&R with the conditions specified about ownership and agreements.
And exemptions?
Yep.
Do you need us to repeat that?
Sorry, are you talking to me?
No, I just,
Oh,
anybody
I
heard,
wasn't
I
sure
don't
if
know
the
if
mic
anybody
timed
heard
out.
Mama say that. So I think I was looking at the TV, but kind of talking to the man behind the TV.
Sorry. I heard almost make the motion.
All right, that's all.
With
We're
the
good
amendment.
then. I just
Yep.
want to make sure whoever was in the audience could hear the motion as made. All right, we have a
Second.
City Hall
second
is
from Kid.
haunted.
Yes, second.
I should just start looking to the mirror and talking to the haunted mirror. Much better.
It does sound that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, Kenham,
Aye.
Kin,
Aye.
Zygmunt,
Aye.
and Wolf is an aye as well. All right,
Awesome.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you. And that will be available to pick up tomorrow? The A&R?
The A&R will be, yeah.
Okay, awesome,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, moving on, we have a continued public hearing for 36 Norfolk Ave, special permit. Do we have anyone in the audience? Oh, okay.
Hi. Excuse me, thank you.
Welcome. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Chris McPherson, representing the applicant, I guess.
All right, thank you, Ms. McPherson. Do you have a presentation for us?
And hopefully Walter's here to do the heavy lifting for me.
Is Walter Hermano?
I am on the meeting right now. Walter Hermano, can everyone
Can you
hear me?
promote him as well? Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Hello, good evening, folks. Can everybody hear me? This is Walter Hermano speaking.
Hello, welcome.
Hey, thank you very much for having us tonight. I appreciate you continuing the meeting for us. Tonight, we're before you for 36 Norfolk Ave. The applicant is Central Ceilings, Inc. And as Chris has explained, he represents Central Ceilings, Inc. We're requesting a special permit to put an addition on his existing property, his business. Anytime you need to ask a question about what he does, by all means, please ask him. He knows it better than I do. He has been in town for over 40 years, running his business, which I'll summarize it very briefly. They construct prefabricated panels for most of Massachusetts and the surrounding area. They currently have about 25 employees. He's looking to expand his business. He has an opportunity to put an addition on the back half of his property. The building will be about the same size as the existing, is 20,160 square feet. And we need a special permit in order to do this. It's a planned business development. I see two of me on the screen. I don't know why. That's double trouble. I apologize for that. So planned business development, he has a building that we would like to put an addition on the rear of the existing building. There will be redevelopment as well as new construction for this project. The parking, we're only asking that it be slightly reduced from the required 54 spaces. If I could possibly share my plan, I could walk you through this. It would be a lot easier to understand what I'm trying to say.
That would be great. Thank you. Are you able to share it?
I'm looking for it right now.
All right.
Here we go. How's that? Can everyone see the plan?
Yes.
Yep, thank you.
Fantastic. Right now, I'm pointing to the existing building. It's a nice structure located near the front, Norfolk Ave. 2.76 acre lot. Currently has parking behind the building and along the side of the building on the south side. There's a grass lawn between the building and the road and between the building and the northerly abutter. There is an intermittent stream on the eastern boundary. And the rear of the property is wooded, as you can see with this outline of this green tree line. He also has a septic system back here, so this footprint at the rear is partially within the 200-foot riverfront area. We have been before conservation for our initial meeting, and we're proposing to them to request us to develop a marginal less than 10% of the riverfront area. We have done our best to keep the development environmentally friendly and out of the protected resource areas. Currently, all stormwater on this site runs over the pavement and straight into the wooded area and eventually to the wetlands. Given the age of the development, there is no treatment for any of the runoff on the property. Go to the next sheet. This shows the proposed development is an addition on the rear, as I've described. We plan to improve the stormwater conditions on the site by capturing and infiltrating all of the runoff from the roof and about 90% of the paved area. There's additional parking proposed between the building and the road right here. is parallel parking. Excuse me. We have underground infiltration structures. I'm pointing to one right now. We have another one over here, and we have a third one over here. Excuse me. Water will be captured by catch basins, excuse me, and then treated by proprietary separators before being infiltrated into the ground. Again, no runoff is being captured existing, but we're going to try and capture, will capture 90% of it post-development. The parking is to just be squared off in this area. Right now, it's a little irregular. We're not extending into the 100-foot buffer. There was no filing required with the state. It's strictly under the 200-foot riverfront area bylaw in the town of Easton. The septic system will be removed from the 200-foot riverfront area, and it will be relocated up here in the front right corner of the property, furthest away from the wetlands. Again, it's a plus. I know we need the building back here, but to put the septic in this area is a positive because it's less nutrients heading immediately towards the wetlands. And also it's within a zone 2. So a new septic system would provide similar, if not better, treatment. The existing septic system is fine. It's not failing, but it'll be the same size, just relocated and new in this area over here. We have an entrance right here in the existing area that's just going to be tidied up a little bit. The throat's going to remain the same. We have another entrance over here, and that is simply to allow the parallel parking traffic to exit or enter the property more easily. The planned expansion of the business, I read through the comments provided by Stephanie. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for those comments. They're very helpful. We have at this time not provided, as of yet, a lighting plan that can be provided. There's also elevations that can be provided. We have submitted some renderings just as of last week. They're really done on the quick, but they would give you an example of what the rear building is going to look like, which essentially is going to mirror the existing building in the front. So the addition is going to look just like the front. It's just going to have a little different shape to it. It'll be the same height. So additionally, I think there were some questions about the parking, if we will have sufficient parking going forward in the future. Currently, there's 25 employees. I checked with Chris today. He has a planned growth rate of maybe 6 to 10%. So at that growth rate, he should have anywhere from 7 to 10 years of available time before he would maximize the parking spaces that we're proposing. And any projection past a couple of years is, very loose. So to go about 7 to 10 years is quite a stretch.
So if I could, Walter, what did you say the growth percentage, anticipated growth percentage was?
Well, we're
Chris-
hoping for like a 6 to 10%, but being in the construction business, it tends to be cyclical anyways. So it's we've been in the park for 40 years and haven't realistically grown much more than 2% a year.
We may be optimistic at 6 to 10%.
I'm trying.
I don't recall ever seeing any of the spaces, the parking area really filled out. And
No, and that's assuming all employees on site. As a construction company, a lot of our people are visiting job sites at any given time. It's incredibly rare that everybody's there to begin.
I think
Let alone
Walter
now with
will
the hybrid
recall that
environment.
I am not looking for more parking spaces, but just want to ensure that what you have is adequate.
Yeah,
Understood.
absolutely, Stephanie.
Understood.
Couldn't agree with you more. We're trying to avoid that sea of asphalt look common in industrial parks. So we're trying to put down as much new pavement as minimum as possible. So we feel we've designed for appropriate parking. both currently and going into the future for at least the next 7 to 10 years. And again, everything is cyclical, things do change. But worst case scenario, even that far out, if he was built out at that point, with employees, he simply would not be able to hire more employees because he's not going to have anywhere to put them. So we feel the parking is proposed will be more than adequate for his needs. There were some other comments. I believe Stephanie, you had some questions about customers, what type of vehicles will be showing up at this property. Chris can explain, as he did to me, he explained that he maybe has 2 vendors that show up once a year.
As I think essentially no customers visit us, they make me drive to them. But we do have vendors that we maybe have 2 vendors visit weekly. Like different vendors, just kind of
Yep.
guessing on their salespeople to call on us with different products. The space itself would be to help us manufacture components, and it's pretty light. We at most would be probably adding 1 tractor trailer a week of an incoming delivery, and the outgoing deliveries are generally handled by our box truck or a rented boom truck, which is sort of like a mobile crane, with a load on it that has like the crane arm to deliver things at a given site. But I would say building this will increase our traffic by probably 1 incoming delivery a week, and outgoing is kind of intermittent, but maybe a couple of deliveries outgoing a week. Maybe
So
1 a day to say.
Yeah, so there would be a marginal, maybe an insignificant increase in traffic, Chris, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna notice.
So that explains the type of traffic, and that there be no proposed, significant increase in traffic. There is no additional loading docks proposed for this addition. This is just manufacturing space that he needs on the inside for his product. The trucks still use the existing truck route that they have now to get to the loading dock, both coming and going. We have comments already received on the peer review from Eric Dyers. And overall, he was quite favorable and said we had a very robust stormwater management system. He had several comments, you'll find them in the staff report. We have to add soil logs to the plan, an important detail. On the logs, I will clearly explain any soils that have to be removed and replaced, but essentially this whole area is part of the former Easton Sand and Gravel Pit. Might have went by other names too, but all the test pits that we did on the property, we found a very permeable material. So it should have excellent drainage. Moving on to the next sheet, quickly, we have an erosion control plan that shows how we're going to capture any runoff proposed on the property. We have siltation all the way around at the work limit, construction entrance, temporary sedimentation basin, which will then be converted over to underground basin when the project's completed. Details, more details. And this is a major detail of the proposed underground system. I won't drag you through all that. Unless you have specific questions, I'd be glad to answer them. We feel we've also met all the special permit criteria for the project. With the additions, especially with the addition of a few employees, he's going to provide a benefit to the community. Taxes, of course, but also employment. There'll be a few extra jobs. So that's definitely a benefit to the community. We are trying to and have proposed to remove any pollution going to the wetlands in the nearby stream by limiting development towards the wetlands, and also through the control of the structures that I've explained. We'll achieve a total suspended solid removal rate better than 90%. It's close to 95 to 98%, and the town requirement is 90. We capture 1 inch of runoff for water quality control purposes. That is also required stormwater requirement of the town. We're meeting both the town and the state regulations for pollutant removal. We're retaining and recharging and meeting all the other standards of the Mass DEP handbook. So again, it's a robust system, but we have an opportunity right now to capture over 90% of the paved surfaces on the property. Whereas, I'll repeat myself, none of it's being captured under the existing conditions. So that's a substantial improvement. I'll pause right now. If anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them for you.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Stephanie, did you have any comments?
No, the only one I'll reiterate, which Walter already acknowledged, but I just want to make sure, again, the photometric plan was not provided. That would need to be provided.
Okay.
And I would ask, so you're before the Conservation Commission tonight, and this is the initial meeting of the hearing?
We have opened up with conservation, and we're going to attend a second hearing on the 27th of January.
Okay, so, I mean, it sounds like you also, and in reviewing, I know that Eric made some suggestions for conditions, but I don't recall that you were final with him on the stormwater review?
That's correct, Stephanie. He just had an initial review, and I'll respond to his comments, but I believe that we will be able to respond to all of them.
Yeah.
They're-
And it's just because my recommendation to the board would be to continue so that you could get the photometric plan, we can review that, and we then would know that the stormwater has been approved.
Yeah, oh yes, absolutely. I agree with you, Stephanie.
Board members, any comments or questions?
Two
All right,
questions,
Amos.
and maybe Stephanie. The first one, I don't see the fire department. Is it needed for them to visit and see this plan?
Thank you for bringing that up. Did they not sign off on, Suzanne?
I didn't get a
Okay, we will re-solicit them.
Yeah. The other one, I will say the parking. First of all, I support the project because business development is very important in Easton. But the maximum coverage going to 33% beyond the 25%. Do we have precedent on decisions for special permit on this?
So during my time as planning director, this is the first planned business development that I've reviewed. So I know there have been others in the past, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head where they were.
Well, I think it's the only point that is a little sore from the point of view of what, approving something because of the precedent and because of the fact. On the other hand, it's an industrial area.
It's an industrial, right. And
So that in itself
right.
is a good argument for
And I think
approving
that's
such
also
a deviation.
that's a good point. So Walter, could you go to your landscape plan again, because you show the limit of your clearing? I think this plan shows. Is that the limit of the clearing where you show the tree line?
Yes, we put these siltation controls right at the limit of clearing.
So it looks like they're clearing the least amount and retaining
Yeah,
that
because
buffer.
it also costs money to clear. So
Right,
yeah.
yep.
Right. We have actually the percent of riverfront area that is not disturbed is quite minor. It's less than the 10% of the existing riverfront area. Because most of the building is going to sit on top of the existing parking lot and the existing septic system.
Yeah. and the lot was clear cut when it was originally built.
Yes, yeah, going back into the 80s, I believe it was at one point clear cut right down and across.
Yeah, I actually
You
have
can
the
see
photo.
across the stream to the neighboring lots that were all cleared as well. Oh, speaking of precedent, I'm not sure, I don't have all the file in front of me for a project that was right across the street, maybe within the past 5 years, 43 Norfolk Ave, I believe, it's a roaster, coffee roaster business. That one might be a good precedent to look at for regards to amount of impervious area
I
permitted
think
during
that
an
was
expansion.
permitted or reviewed quite a while ago, because I don't think that, again, I don't think that was during my time over the last 7 years.
Maybe.
The other question, have you have contact with the abutters on the back and on both sides about this development at all?
They've been notified and we've kind of done the notifications. I don't have any regular communication with there's a new owner on the other side of the river, if that's what you're talking about, that I'm not aware of. I have spoken to somebody at Atlantic Properties to address one of the board's concerns about some what's the right term? Some like lawn clippings that they had been discarding on our property, and told them why I needed that rectified, and they were in support, or I don't want to say support, but they were aware of what was going on.
Yeah, it's industrial, so.
Yeah, so to answer your, kind of further answer your question or comment on it, I'm just looking at Google Maps now, and it shows that the front of the building is all lawn, it's grassed lawn. Maybe the applicant could do some.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, do some planting, some trees or shrubbery there that would offset
Yeah.
some of that heat island effect from the impervious surface.
Certainly something I'm happy to look at.
So some tree plantings,
Yeah.
Stephanie, I believe is what you're suggesting, maybe on this island
Yeah.
right here between the two entrances?
Yeah, it's industrial.
Show me where?
So.
Yeah, yeah, and then I would even, I think it would really look attractive there if there were like a little copse, I hope I'm saying that right, of trees, shade trees or something.
In general, I see improvement with this development.
Yes.
I
Yep.
think anything to reduce the overall heat island effect as well, particularly kind of in that area, is excellent. So thank you.
I have a question. I'm not real clear on where's the leaching field for the septic?
Here on the
Yeah,
front.
right there.
On the front where it's currently paved?
Oh, because you said
No,
you're
on the other
moving
side.
it.
They're moving it, yeah.
On that
Oh, yes, I'm
The
sorry.
existing.
right.
Is right here under the proposed building. This is the existing leaching field.
All right,
It's just off the pavement on the rear of the property.
and then the new one is,
They're gonna
That'll be abandoned properly and it'll be new and relocated over in this area right here.
okay. So kind of where the little island is between the two properties?
Yes.
There'll be parking spaces on top of this septic system, but there is a small landscape space that's existing right here
Right
at the
there.
entrance.
Yeah.
Where there's trees right now?
Are there
It's
trees
going
there?
to be
I don't see.
redone.
Yeah,
Ooh, there are some trees along the property line, but at the entrance, and I think it's mulch and maybe some
Pines.
low
The trees
bushes,
are on
Chris.
the north, yeah,
Yeah.
on the north
I think it's the south.
side.
Yeah.
on the south.
The other north.
Okay, I see it. I see them. No, I'm looking at the trees on the north, and yes, I see that island now, sorry.
We could definitely propose some landscaping to offset the minor increase in pavement that we're proposing. That's not a problem.
All good. Any other comments from the board? Seeing as this is a public hearing, is there any comments from anyone in the audience? Suzanne, anyone online? All right, do I have a motion to continue?
Motion to continue, is that January 27th?
21st, I think, is the date.
21st? You're going to be ready?
Was that February 21st?
January
21st.
January.
January 21st? Well, we're to meet with Conservation on the 27th.
You want to meet,
if
what's
the-
the
if the
first meeting
condition
in
is to wait-
February?
Yeah.
February.
If the condition is to wait for the stormwater approval from
Right.
Conservation, then we should not meet before
So
before our next
February
meeting.
3rd?
Yes, thank you.
So motion to continue to February 3rd. Kevin?
Second, Kid.
Any further discussion? Seeing none? Kid?
Aye.
Kedem?
Aye.
Zygmunt?
Aye.
All right, and Wolf is an aye as well. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you back on February the 3rd.
Great. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, moving on to Weber Farm, architecturally review lot 6.
Is he on, is he
he on?
online? I-
Okay.
Well, Jade's like.
That's not my.
That's what I thought. No, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Do we want to have a conversation while waiting for Mr. Peterson, or?
Did he indicate he would be late?
No. He came in today.
And he knew what time the meeting was?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone coming? So we can continue with the discussion. We just don't have Mr. Peterson here to, we can at least have that kind of part of the discussion. So board members, you received the packet. Everyone should have also received from me the minutes. I went through and pulled all of the minutes relevant to Weber Farm since the beginning of this discussion, which I believe was in 2017. That helped, I will say, for me, inform my thinking on this, given that I have not been on the board this entire time. I don't think any of us have been on the board the entire time.
I
Amos
was on
was.
the last decision for the last
Yeah, I think I was away at a conference on the last decision, so I
last
missed that
decision
one.
about
Yeah,
Hardy Board,
Yeah.
Hardy Plank.
but the rest of them, I had no context because I wasn't on the board.
But I think you were on the
Yes.
board when the project was approved, Amos?
No,
No, okay.
No, I didn't see your name on there.
no.
Yeah.
But I was on the last decision, one of the houses.
Yes.
That, the one that didn't
Oh,
complain,
because it's been so
didn't
long.
comply.
Right,
That we
the-
made a
right,
change.
right, yes,
I was on that one.
yep.
I wasn't on the previous one before that.
Based on the architectural review as presented and kind of the minutes, does any board members have any comments? It's a little bit difficult to do it out here.
I have a comment
Okay.
on this. So there are three aspects to this discussion. One is the aesthetics. The other one is the technical aspect. And the third one is the board precedent decisions that were made. And although the discussion of aesthetics and technical are important, for me personally are not relevant because it doesn't matter, because aesthetic is in the eye of the beholder. And it's a discussion and it's ultimately an opinion that this is better. I did a little research and it's overwhelming that hardy planks are considered prettier. The same way that you end up paying more for something that even in the perception that is better makes it better. Like the counters in your kitchen being very expensive stones instead of playboard. But that's where this discussion is not very very relevant, besides the fact that it was decided based probably on aesthetics more than anything else and perception. But because it was decided because of that, the decision is more important than the discussion. Technically, both materials are pros and cons. And the discussion about what is better from both of them depend who is holding that discussion. Again, if the discussion is an opinion. Therefore, the precedent for me is a lot more important for the board to be consistent with decisions and to salvaguard what, even if it is a perception, the interest of the neighbors of that development to maintain what they have. They're asking us to do that. Therefore, my response is we need to impose hardy plank or any cement with fiber that looks exactly like that one. So there is no difference as someone looking right there 2 feet from the house, that this house is the same.
I will say, after compiling 17 pages of minutes, reading them all and kind of going through them, I would agree that the precedent as established by the minutes seemed that to be hardy plank. There was no other option, that it seemed to be pretty clear from the previous boards what the decision would be in terms of the materials used, definitely.
There are other 6 other brands that are kind of comparable to hardy plank, but none of them, after looking very closely, look exactly like the other one. They are not the same. Therefore, doesn't matter if it is better or worse. That's a discussion and opinion on that. It won't look like the other houses, and that is what we are pursuing.
Thank you, Amos. Joanne?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a different take on it. I think this is a really difficult case for obvious reasons. We've been talking about it quite a bit back and forth. I think I'm not clear. So I wasn't on the board. None of us were on the board when the mandate was put down that the development was to use hardy board. My interpretation of the minutes, it seemed to do more with aesthetic, and then somehow it was turned over to hardy board, but the minutes don't clearly document why hardy board and not something else. The affordable unit that was built had to be redone because it didn't look like the other buildings in the development. And that's the rule, right? If you're building an affordable unit, it has to be like the other units. So I understand later on the board requiring that to be re-sided with hardy to look in keeping with the rest of the neighborhood and indistinguishable. What I'm struggling with here is that as a planning board member, I think, I and we need to be really careful about the slippery slope of telling builders how to build and what materials to use. As Amos said, you can ask anybody about vinyl versus fiberboard, cement board of some brand, whatever brand, doesn't have to be hardy board. And there's pros and cons to both, and everybody's going to have a different opinion. And a lot of it has to do with installation as well, too, which is a whole other separate issue from the vinyl side of things. I don't feel like if the builder can demonstrate that the aesthetic of the house is going to look like the rest of the neighborhood, then I can't really see how I could tell him not to use a vinyl product. Some of the vinyl products that I've seen used are beautiful. And, the reality is nobody's going to go 2 inches to the siding and inspect, is this hardy board or is this vinyl, if from the street it looks the same. So my feeling at the moment is I'm leaning towards allowing the builder to make the decision of the material that he uses, with the understanding that it has to look like the other houses in the neighborhood. And I don't know if that's something that could be conditioned in the same way as the affordable unit. If it's not in keeping with the aesthetic of the neighborhood once it is built with his vinyl product, then maybe the condition can make him redo it at that point. I don't know if that's possible. That might be an overreach, but that's kind of where I stand right now.
I think one of the questions I had and I posed to Stephanie when thinking about this was, it keeps saying keeping with the aesthetics of the neighborhood, which is a very subjective opinion. And who decides that? Stephanie, I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you finish, but
Yeah.
then I would like to respond both to what Joanne
Yeah.
said and where you're going.
And that if you're saying, and none of us wrote the previous decision, I don't think that any of us today would say the words in keeping with the aesthetics of a neighborhood. And so for me, the slippery slope might kind of stop and end here on a plateau if we word kind of the decision moving forward in such a way respecting what the folks who've already built in that development have done. And there's what, 3 lots left, I believe? Yeah, 3 lots left. What should be considered within the rest of it? I think 3, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So-
that to me is just the subjective piece, is that once you know it's vinyl, can you ever look at it and decide
So-
something else?
It's not subjective. If you look at the house from 25 or 30 feet away and you don't have good eyes, you might not see the difference like that.
But who?
But if,
That's the question.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
But if you got close enough, one is 5/16 thick,
Yeah.
and the other one has no thickness. It has
Yeah.
a curve that goes inside and go there. Definitely, it will look different. The texture outside of the board, the plank, the hardy plank, is totally different if you are looking close enough. If someone is going to buy this house in the future, or drive by this neighborhood and look at that house, that will be something they will be looking at, and they look different.
Yeah.
I guess
So
that's really-
again-
It's objective. It's not subjective.
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
Yeah.
if I may, because I'd like to respond to what Joanne said and why did the board talk about hardy plank and aesthetics. So the aesthetics that the board discussed and was talking about at the time was the architectural interest, visual appeal of the design itself. And you've seen that with the board and batten, with the crown molding that they've used, the difference in the peak designs, and the materials that are used on the porches where porches are installed. It also, the board talked about hardy plank because, as Amos pointed out, it looks more like wood, a natural wood product, than the vinyl can achieve in most cases. I mean, I've seen some higher quality vinyl, but still, when you get up close, it does not look like wood. Whereas someone with not an expertise eye would not necessarily know that hardy plank is what was used. And wood clapboards were, for long periods of time throughout New England's housing development, a traditional siding material. So that was why the board members at the time were really pushing for the hardy board. I think Amos on the precedent side, I talked with town council.
Thank you.
One, because one of the things that was raised was the durability of hardy board. And again, I think I did a little bit of research afterwards. I think other members of the board may have. It seems to have a very similar lifespan as the vinyl. But the other claims that, that if it failed, that, there would be a responsibility, that just doesn't hold. The town isn't responsible for a material not failing. And I also asked him about, can the board impose an exterior material product? And he said they can. It's done all the time. Through
done
many
it
towns
so
where
many
you have a
times.
particular area. It may be a district, it may be a development type, which this is a development type. It's the flexible development where, and in this particular case too, where you're looking for a style that you'd like to see, and that it's okay for the board to impose that. And then we talked, and he was asking how many of the homes have been built, and of course, consulting with council was instrumental when the affordable unit was not constructed with the same material. So he was familiar with it. And I said, well, most of the units have been built, and this was what was required. And certainly the board should take that into consideration.
And the reason affordable units are established to be identical is for a reason, right?
Right, so
think
they are
about
not,
that. And it's
yes,
not different from this house and the rest of the house in the neighborhood.
yes.
The same principle. And again,
And in this case, I mean, the house lacked two elements of that. It lacked the level of architectural detail, and it lacked the same material.
Anyone else?
So just,
Okay.
yeah, just kind of a question then to help me process this. So what happens in 30 years' time if somebody wants to reside the house? Can they choose to use whatever material they want, or are they again going to have to use hardy board? Right? I'm assuming in 30 years they could use whatever they want.
yes,
Yeah, they could,
that is true. But
yes.
look, special permit is what we use in order to be able to have an influence about the town, have an influence about what is being done. And that's the reason we can say what materials you use.
Oh, I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that. That's clear. Yeah.
Yeah, because the decision doesn't state that a material or has to be in perpetuity. And it just gave the board the authority to approve the initial design.
Unless there is an association with the bylaws or whatever, they are free to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Within the bylaws of town, of course.
Do we have any members of the public wanting to speak? Sure. Would you mind coming to the mic, or thank you, and just introduce yourself? Thank you. Welcome to use either one.
Okay. This one should be fine.
Okay.
My name's Leo Conlon, and I'm one of the abutters at 33 Matthews Circle. And I'm here with two other abutters that are here. I'm really the spokesperson for the neighborhood, and precipitated the documentation that I sent. And basically, it's the summary that was probably the last thing that was just sent to you that was really what we believe is the reason why it should be hardy board. A little bit of background on that is Doug King built the first 9 houses at Matthews Circle, okay? And then he stalled because of the affordable trust house that he had there. Turned everything over to Al and Drudis. So that's where we are on that. When my wife and I signed a purchase and sale on the house, we specifically was checking, all the notes from the planning board back then, because we asked, what would happen with the other houses? Can they just do whatever they want with it to protect our own interests and value of the house? So that's where we are, and that's where our concern is on it. The affordable trust house was built with vinyl and then removed. And then also, that was with Jim, his last name is, I think, not Diambro, Stephanie, what's his last name? Donato. He's the one that had to rip all the vinyl siding off of that. And when he was building the next house, I asked him, what kind of siding are you going to put there? And he basically said, he says, I've learned my lesson. It's going to be hardy board that's there. So all the houses in the neighborhood are all hardy board. We want this this development completed so that it can be handed over to the homeowners. We'll have our own little HOA. So it's not that we don't want it built. We like the design of the house. It's just the facade on the outside that we're very concerned, because that's what you see. Amos was talking about that. If you look up close at a house, you can see that vinyl is totally different than hardyboard plank. Our houses are 20 feet from the road or less if you ever drive in that neighborhood. So it's very obvious, when you're looking at the facade of the houses, what the material is made of. Do we care about if you're trying to cut corners on the inside of the house? Absolutely not. If they don't want to put granite countertops or anything, that's not a problem. We're just concerned about the exterior of the facade of what it looks like, and it just won't fit in to the neighborhood. If you do allow it, more than likely, because vinyl siding is so much cheaper, the other two lots, that they're clearing the lots right now, will definitely request to be vinyl siding. So now you're going to have 3 of them that look absolutely different than the rest of the neighborhood. That's where we are on that, and I think that covers what you guys, I don't know if you want to say anything else on that, or you'll have to announce who you are.
If you wouldn't mind.
I was on the zoning
board.
board of appeals on my town in Merrimack before I moved, so I know how this process works.
Thank you.
For listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello. My name's George Farrell. I live at 17 Matthews Circle. And I want to go back a little bit to the idea that when Doug King built the complex, you all know they all conformed to the requirements and all of that. When it got turned over, either with the sale to Andrunas or to the gentleman who's building now, it seems to me, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know if it's legally the case, but the requirements that are in place ought, I think, if not legally, ought to be understood by the people taking over, that they are accepting the ability to build it, but they're also accepting the responsibility of conforming to the agreements that everybody has agreed to up to this point. And so I'm not sure, other than the obvious, it will be cheaper to put vinyl on. I'm not sure why there should be any exception to the conditions that he accepted when he accepted the responsibility for building. Thank you.
I would just like to provide some clarification.
Okay.
This project was brought to the town by Al Andrunas. This was Al Andrunas's
ask a question
project.
about that, yeah.
And Mr. King just built the first many houses.
Oh, hi, my name's Mark Kloboski. I also live at Matthews Circle now. I've been there about 2 years. I appreciate you hearing me, and I really can't say anything more eloquent than my neighbors, but maybe from a different perspective. So the road on Matthews Circle, that's not a public road. That's still private. I mean, we pay HOA fees for plowing and paving. So even though there's not a true HOA, homeowners association, we're all sort of related. We share a common septic. And so, curb appeal is a lot for resale, and we've all paid a premium to buy those houses for a certain look. So obviously, if our neighbor has a totally different look, it will decrease the curb appeal, not only for that house, but for the neighbors. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Suzanne, is there anyone else online wishing to speak? No. Okay. Board members, any further comments?
I just have, sorry, a clarifying question. So Stephanie, when the subdivision was initially brought forward, so the builder's changed, but the subdivision owner, like the landowner, is the same still?
Well, Mr. Andrunas is generally a site developer. And
Okay.
as far as I know, I don't know that he actually builds homes. So he, in the past, and I've only been involved with a couple of, I think this is the first subdivision that I know of that he's built. I know he's done some commercial work, but he will do I know he will do the site work and prepare the site for development. And in this case, Doug King built the lots.
But the lots were owned by Mr. Andrunas.
I'm sorry.
The lots were owned by Mr. Andrunas
You know,
before.
I can't tell you the exact ownership. I know that Alan
Okay.
Andrunas is the owner of the development.
Why are you asking?
Well, because I'm trying to understand the history of, because I think a good point was made that, you know, if there were rules or expectations in place initially for the subdivision, if somebody else purchases it to then develop the rest of it, then those rules and expectations should follow. So I'm just trying to understand what that history was, right? And that seems to be the case here,
yes,
right?
Yes, yes.
My understanding is it really doesn't matter if the developer changes or not.
Well, I think
The
that's,
decisions were decisions of the board.
and I think that's what, that's what Joanne is saying.
So
And
this
and
is
Right.
the board.
Yes.
And under that, the rest of the participants, both the developers and the neighbors of this development, both were under these condition, assumptions, and agreements. And if we take that precedent away, we are actually not respecting that agreement. So there is legal, and there is rules, and there is that, but it is the right thing to do. It might not come together if you know lawyers and laws and rules and regulations. I am asking to do the right thing.
I would agree that sometimes I think that there are some implied assumptions that are just considered as you go. When you look at, again, having gone through all those minutes, you start to get a feel for reading it through, like what was the understanding going through each time it came to the board. Whether or not the board members at the time, I don't know, meant to use the word hardy board or hardy plank, or if they were using it like they use the word Xerox. The fact is they use that word all the time. And so it starts to become the understanding that that is what it's going to be. Without Mr. Peterson here, I mean, we've now been chatting, I've been watching for at least 25 minutes.
Well, this is the third time
Yeah,
it's before the board, and what the board is voting on is the design.
Yeah,
And
so,
so we vote not for this design not to approve it, and that's it.
yeah, well, I'm just gonna ask, do I have a motion from a board member?
So you need to do the motion to approve or motion not to approve? Or motion to approve,
You-
and we vote no? Or how that?
You
works?
can do a motion not to approve.
You can.
Yes.
So motion not to approve, Kevin.
Second kid.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, Kedem,
Aye.
Kid,
Aye.
Zygmunt,
Aye.
and Wolf is an aye as well. Motion not to approve is approved?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right.
That passes. The motion
The
not to
motion,
approve
yes,
passes.
not just passes.
It's the first time that I vote for the motion not to approve.
No, it's not the first time.
For me.
For you, yeah.
I just asked a procedural question. What would happen? Will he then reapply another month, or, with this one's just?
This has been, the board has voted not to approve
Well,
this
yeah.
design, so he could,
So could he come with another design
Yeah.
the following month?
with the Hardy board,
With anything,
with the Hardy.
I will just say, I hope that Mr. Peterson watches this meeting and has listened to the board's discussion and hears what the board is saying. And the next design that is presented kind of, so that nobody else's time is wasted. The next design that is presented in such a manner that the board should approve it.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate your time.
It will be another motion not to approve if he comes with it. will be my second one.
Board business, we're on to meeting minutes from December 17th.
Look okay to me.
Looked okay. Do any further discussion, or do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second, Kidd?
Have a good night.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, Zigmund,
Aye.
Kidd,
Aye.
Kedem,
Aye.
and Wolf is an aye as well.
Aye, aye, aye.
Other chair updates, again, I'm not the chair, I'm not updating anything. I don't believe Bob had passed along anything, so planning director updates, I'll move it along to Stephanie.
So I think the only thing, I've talked about the master plan update over the past few months. We have had, and I think I mentioned that BSC Group was selected to work as the consultant on the master plan update with the town. Joanne is co-chair of the master plan update committee along with Nikki Dostumian. And we will be looking to, we had a kickoff meeting, which I think was productive. And we have some dates that I will be sending out to people for stakeholder meeting. And that will involve, I have the list, but not memorized, key members of board chairs of key boards and members of the public, key municipal staff, and then we are planning in February to have the first public input session.
What? Remember, I'm off.
Amos, I can't hear anything you're saying.
He's off in February, so he's wondering what date this is happening.
I'm asking for the dates.
So, let me just. Okay. And I'm looking for.
I think it's February 26th, Stephanie, right? The same day they're doing the interviews?
Yes. Actually, I think yes. No, I think February 3rd is, let me see. So I think February 3rd is the meeting where we'll do the stakeholder meeting, and then I think it's February 26th is the public input session. Yeah. So February 3rd is proposed as, wait a minute, as the Wednesday is winter break. No, moving the, February 3rd is not but the public input meeting will be on February 26th. Joanne, I have to look at my calendar on because what they were proposing was the second week in February instead of the third week, which is our standing.
Right, and the third
Committee
week, I
meeting.
think, was the school vacation.
Correct, which is like February 2nd. So I think it's the 15th. That looks like, yeah. Yes. It would be the 15th.
Of February, the Saturday?
Oh my goodness. Am I looking at the wrong month? No, we're not meeting on
It's late.
on Saturday.
I was like, on a Saturday, you didn't sign me up for that.
No. So let's see, February. It will be the 12th.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. All right, that's my update for now.
All right, thank you, Stephanie.
Did everyone have a happy new year?
very much so.
So far, so good.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, is there a second?
Zygmunt, second.
All right. Further discussion, seeing none. Kedem. Kidd.
Aye.
Zygmunt.
Aye.
And Wolf is an aye as well. Thank you all for such a good, productive meeting tonight. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Good night and good luck.